Hey everyone and welcome. Today we are diving deep into what is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful, most argued about, and most important pieces of American law ever written. We're going to explore the 5 freedoms that really define the nation. We'll see how they were born out of a revolution and this is the really cool part, we'll see how they're still being tested and fought for every single day, right now on our streets and on our screen.
So we are so excited to bring you this explainer presented by our partners over at RWG Publishing. And look, everything we're going to talk about today is inspired by and grounded in Bill Vincent's amazing book, Liberty in Action. We're basically using his fantastic insights and storytelling to guide us on this journey together. So with that, let's just jump right in.
You know, the book starts out by calling the First Amendment the cornerstone of American democracy, and I just think that's the perfect way to put it. Seriously, think about what a cornerstone does. It's not just any old brick in the wall, right? It's the first stone you lay, the one that makes sure everything else is aligned and holds the whole structure up. And that's exactly what the First Amendment is. It's the very foundation for everything we value about free thought, open debate, and just being an individual.
Okay, so that seems like a pretty simple question, doesn't it? But trust me, the answer is so much bigger and more complex than you might think. We're talking about something that the sharpest legal minds have been debating for over 200 years. See, the First Amendment isn't just one single right. It's this powerful bundle of interconnected freedoms. They all work together, and sometimes they even clash with each other. So, what are they? All right, let's break this down into what the book calls the foundational pillars. Think of these as the 5 core protections, the absolute bedrock that the First Amendment promises every single citizen. If you can get these, you'll understand everything that comes after. And here they are, the big 5. The freedom of speech, so you can say what you believe. The freedom of the press, so journalists can report the truth without the government shutting them down. Freedom of religion, so you can believe in any faith or no faith at all. Freedom of assembly, the right to gather together peacefully. And the freedom to petition, which is just a fancy way of saying you have the right to complain to your government and ask for change. Each one of these is huge on its own, but it's how they all lock together that's so revolutionary. It means you can think what you want, say what you think, report what you see, believe what you feel, gather with who you want, and challenge the people in power. It's the whole package. Now, what you've got to understand is that these rights didn't just appear out of thin air. They were earned the hard way. I mean, look at this timeline. Way back in 1735, long before the United States was even a country, this printer, John Peter Zenger, gets tossed in jail just for criticizing the governor. His supposed crime? Seditious libel. But his lawyer argued something totally radical for the time. He said it's not libel if it's true. And he won. That moment planted the seeds for a free press. Then you fast forward to 1776, the Declaration of Independence is all about these unalienable rights. And finally, in 1791, they make it official and write it all down in the Bill of Rights. This was a long, hard fight. So, okay, these freedoms aren't just some dusty old ideas in a textbook. No way. They are tools. They are the engine. When you look back at American history, almost every single major social movement was powered by the First Amendment. Think about abolitionists writing pamphlets and giving speeches, suffragettes marching in the streets, civil rights leaders organizing protests and boycotts. It all comes back to using these fundamental rights to push for change. In this quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? This comes from a Supreme Court case about burning the American flag, which, let's be honest, a lot of people find deeply offensive. But what Justice Brennan is saying here is that the First Amendment isn't there to protect popular, easy speech. Everybody agrees with that stuff. The real test, the true power of the First Amendment, is that it protects the speech we hate, the ideas that make us uncomfortable. It forces us to argue against them with better ideas, not just have the government silence them. This all leads to this really cool concept called the marketplace of ideas. The basic theory, which goes way back to thinkers like John Stuart Mill, is both simple and honestly profound. The idea is, let's not have the government decide what's true and what's false. Instead, let's throw all the ideas, the good, the bad, the brilliant, the ugly, out into the open and let them compete. The belief is that, through a whole lot of debate and argument, the truth will eventually win out, and bad ideas will just kind of wither away. It's definitely messy, but it's the democratic way. Okay, so let's look at a real-world case where this marketplace was put on trial. It's 1964, right in the middle of the civil rights movement. An Alabama official named L.B. Sullivan sues the New York Times because an ad supporting Dr. King had a few tiny, insignificant errors in it. And in Alabama, he won. But it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they created a new rule called the actual malice standard. This was a total game changer. It basically said that for a public official to win a libel suit, they have to prove the reporter knew what they were publishing was false or just didn't care. This protected the press, allowing them to report on things like segregation without fear of being sued into silence over a tiny mistake. Now, this is just one of the incredible legal battles covered in our source material. So before we jump to the modern day, if this kind of history gets you fired up, you've got to check out Liberty in Action by Bill Vincent. It's on Amazon, and the level of detail is it's incredible.
All right, so how does all this history apply to us right now in the age of smartphones and social media? Well, the fight for the First Amendment is far from over. Today, the battles are being fought online, on college campuses, and on our city streets. We're dealing with brand new questions about free speech that the founders could never have imagined.
One of the most interesting examples of this today is a movement of people who call themselves First Amendment auditors. And maybe you've even seen their videos online. These are just regular citizens who decide to proactively test whether government officials actually know and respect the public's rights, using the most powerful tool they have, the camera on their phone.
So here's how it usually works, and it's really simple but so effective. An auditor will go to a public place, like the lobby of a post office or a city hall, and they'll just start filming. That's it. If a security guard or an employee comes up and tells them to stop, they just calmly say, "I have a First Amendment right to record in public." The whole point is to document what happens next. Do the officials respect the law, or do they try to intimidate or illegally stop them? And that footage gets posted online, and it becomes this incredible educational tool for everyone else.
And let's be super clear, this isn't some legal loophole they're exploiting. The federal courts have been very, very clear on this. This quote here says it all. The courts recognize that filming public officials is not only a right, it's a cardinal interest, meaning it is absolutely essential for democracy to work. It lets us, the people, gather our own information and keep our government transparent and accountable. It's a modern version of a free press, and it's a right every single one of us has. And that, right there, that's really the main takeaway from all of this. The First Amendment isn't some dusty old piece of parchment locked away in a museum. It's a living, breathing promise. And it's a promise that only stays alive because every single generation steps up to defend it. Whether it was a printer in the 1700s, an activist in the 1960s, or just a citizen with a smartphone today. Liberty isn't something you just have. It's something you do. Look, we've really only scratched the surface today. There is so much more history, so many more landmark cases, and so many ongoing battles for all 5 of these freedoms. So if you want to go deeper, I really, really encourage you to pick up the book that made this all possible, Liberty in Action by Bill Vincent. You can find it right on Amazon.
So I guess the question I really want to leave you with is this. The challenges we face today are brand new. We're dealing with social media algorithms that can trap us in echo chambers and a political climate that is so divided it tests our ability to even listen to each other. The First Amendment gives us the rule book, but it's up to us to play the game, how we choose to use our voices, how we choose to listen, and how we demand accountability. That's what's going to decide the future of these freedoms. Thank you for listening to the Deep Dive podcast.